What happened in Beavercreek? All right, this video is going to be unedited and raw, and so bear with me. I want to talk about what happened in Beavercreek yesterday. They're not going to indict anyone in the death of an innocent man, and that's a problem. Let me explain this to you, Beavercreek Police Department and Beavercreek District Attorney's Office. I think you're all Dayton, Ohio, but just in case you're not. You've got a real problem, and you've just ruined a whole lot of cops' lives across the country. An innocent man was killed on your watch. And let me break this down for you. You're given special rights and special privileges because of special training. Okay? If a concealed carry permit holder had been told there was a guy swinging a rifle around in Wal-Mart and did what you did, he'd already be serving his time. Okay? He has no training. You and your officers do. You're holding your officers to a lower standard than you would hold a civilian to. The lack of an indictment in this case is frankly appalling. In inner cities, and I'm sure it's true in Dayton, in the poorest neighborhoods, police are already not trusted. You're not the friends of the people there, by and large. There are exceptions, of course, to every rule. But by and large, in poor, and in particularly poor minority communities, you're not liked. You're not wanted there. This isn't helping your case. You're losing standing among middle-class white people. You get that? The police are starting to lose middle-class white people because of their behavior. The people who used to come to your defense and say, hey, maybe this, maybe that, are now going, I wonder why they're not getting treated correctly. People who used to make excuses for you are stopping making excuses for you. That's a problem. You're losing popularity. You're losing your ability to do your job. And it's not one police department that hurts. You can have 100 police departments, and if one of them pulls crap like you just pulled in Beavercreek, it hurts all 100 of them. Everybody suffers when you do not hold the police to a higher standard. An innocent man was murdered. You need to understand what happened here. This man was murdered. There is no way you believe, or anybody believes, we've seen the video, that he was swinging the gun around and pointing it at children. At the very least, you should be indicting, I won't even mention his name, but the man who called 911. At the very least, that's who you should be indicting. The fact that you're not indicting any of your police officers might be able to be overlooked. Maybe. In reality, it shouldn't be. Again, your people claim to have better training. If they have better training, that means that they need to be held to a higher standard. Civilians down here don't have that training. If they reacted the way the police reacted right now, they'd already be in prison. Your cops with all this training reacted this poorly, and you're letting them walk. Not even costing them their jobs. Nothing. They're free to go. Meanwhile, you got a dead man. And I don't give a crap about the color of his skin. The fact that it's a dead black man does not matter to me in the least. You have a dead man on your hands that you murdered. But I'll tell you who it does matter to. The minority community of your cities and minority communities of cities all around the country are going to have a huge problem with you not holding the police accountable in this case. And they should. Honestly, in Ferguson they had riots. They didn't need riots in Ferguson, but they might need them in Beavercreek. And I don't support rioting, and I'm not saying that people should go out and riot. because rioting is random destruction. But there should be protests outside every police department you have. Should be so thick with protesters that you can't get your cops in or out of the building. That's how tight it should be right now. Because you screwed up. And I understand this went to a grand jury, and your grand jury said that there's no indictment on the police. I understand that. But frankly, it doesn't matter. Frankly, you screwed up. Maybe this should never have gone to a grand jury. Maybe you should have just assumed you had what you needed and prosecuted. At least then, there would have been a trial. If they were found innocent at trial, no problem. You gave them a trial. But your refusal to even indict Richie for what he did, unacceptable. Unacceptable across the board. You need to hold people to a higher standard. You're claiming your officers are trained. You're claiming your officers are better at doing their job than civilians, and yet when they screw up worse than a civilian, you don't handle it in any way at all. You go, oh, we'll put it in front of a grand jury and we'll present the evidence that they were just trained over this, and the cops are trained to shoot somebody who's swinging a gun around. And you think that that's justification for letting these officers walk. I don't care that these officers have to live the rest of their life knowing that they killed an innocent man. That's bad enough, right? No, it's not. It's not bad enough because you're harming police across the country. You're calling into question the legitimacy of police departments, the legitimacy of DA's offices, and prosecutors across the country. You are calling into question the legitimacy of the government as a whole, as an entity, because you're not acting in the people's best interests. And that's the fact. Like it or not, your lack of action here is going to have ramifications. Mr. Ritchie, at the very least, belongs in a prison cell. An argument, like I said, certain arguments could be made that the cops are reacting certain ways. That doesn't mean they shouldn't have gone to trial. If a concealed carry permit holder had done what the police did and reacted to a situation where he thought this guy was a dangerous shooter and simply pulled his gun and shot, that concealed carry permit holder would now be in prison already. His trial would have been quick and done with. The fact is that there are millions of concealed carry permit holders across the country. Accountable for, in the last several years, a handful of incidents. And I do mean a handful. If you take over the last several years total, you get under 1,000 incidents total with concealed carry weapons holders drawing their weapons in murder or accidental shootings, anything of that type. In fact, the police actually have a terrible track record with this. Latest reports that I saw from a few years back suggested that police were shooting 5 times as many innocent people as the untrained civilians do. It is absolutely imperative that your DA pull his head out of his rear and prosecute Ritchie at least. If your grand jury is saying there's not going to be an indictment against Ritchie, the damage you are doing, it's astronomical. You cannot expect yourself to be considered a legitimate authority on justice when you don't provide justice. Mr. Ritchie intentionally called the police against a man who was walking around with what could have been a real gun, but guess what? In Ohio, that's not illegal. Told them that he was pointing it at kids, told them he was pointing it and swinging it around. He wasn't doing any of those things. He lied on a 911 call. He lied. An innocent man is dead, and your Justice Department is dropping the ball. You You can't do that. And people of America, you can't tolerate that sort of activity. I don't care if you're a conservative, a libertarian, a Democrat, a socialist, communist. I don't care what you are. The one thing we all agree upon in this case, and I say we all agree because I know we do, is that this is unacceptable. That an innocent man dying because somebody called the police on him wrongfully is unacceptable. So to Dayton and Beavercreek, I suggest you unwedge your head from where it is, and I suggest you start taking seriously the damage you are doing nationwide to police departments. Because this is not a small incident. This isn't something that's going to get brushed under the rug. This is one of those incidents that really will stick, with, in particular with certain groups of people, but in general, it's going to weaken your authority nationwide. That's all I have to say. Long rant, but whatever.